And so Carmelo Anthony was talking with Dwayne Wade on Dwayne Wade's podcast and was diving into all the New York Knicks trade stuff and talked about how he never really forced his way to the Knicks, never really was planning on going to the Knicks, and was going into details about back then when he ultimately was traded to the Knicks. But then he dropped a bombshell. And Carmelo Anthony revealed, according to Carmelo Anthony, now this is just Carmelo Anthony, Carmelo Anthony said a deal was done for him to go to the Lakers, which would have teamed him up with Kobe Bryant. So here's what he said. The deal was done with the Lakers. Anthony said at the 1 hour and 36 minute mark, me and Nene for Lamar Odom and Andrew Bynum. That deal was done. I never thought about New York. So back in 2011, Carmelo Anthony, according to him again, a deal was done that would have teamed him up with Kobe Bryant. Now, if you remember, the Lakers traded for Steve Nash and Dwight Howard the following year in 2012. So we'll dive into that side here in a moment. But this was pre-Kobe Achilles injury. So a couple things about this. One, what does a Kobe and Melo duo look like? Right? What does that entail? Does that even work? Right? With those two guys. Now look, Kobe, he had stretches and times where he was willing to pass the ball, and playing alongside a guy like Carmelo Anthony, he may have adapted and evolved. Same thing with Melo, right? The two of them could have been a very lethal pairing. You're talking about two of the greatest scorers ever paired up on the same team. There is also a side of it where maybe it just doesn't work at all and it's a disaster. Now, mentally, I don't doubt that these two could get along and figure it out. It's just their skill sets. Would their skill sets have balanced each other enough to really lead to championships? Now, it would have been fun to watch. And then for them to also get Nene in the deal. So you're talking back then, you would have had a starting five of what, like Fisher, Kobe, Melo, Pau Gasol, and Nene? Well, no, you'd still have Metta World Peace at that time, right? So what happens with Metta? Does he end up going else? Do you end up trading him elsewhere? Do maybe you run him at the 4? Because this was at the time where like small ball, it wasn't this huge thing, but you saw like, teams like Miami, LeBron was running the 4. So maybe you did something where Nene came off the bench. Maybe Gasol ran the 5, Metta at the 4, Melo at the 3, Kobe at the 2, Fisher at the point. I mean, the possibility, man, I would have loved to see that. In all honesty, I would have loved to see that. Having those two go at it against like Miami and stuff, like, whoo, that the firepower alone would have been exciting to watch. Just these two going off. And does Kobe ever get hurt? Right? Like, I'm not saying he wouldn't have been dealing, especially in his later years, dealing with like nagging. He was always dealing with like nagging stuff. But does he tear his Achilles if he has Carmelo Anthony, somebody to carry the workload? Seriously, right? Like, because that was a big problem, is like Kobe Bryant was like single-handedly trying to will that team because Steve Nash gets hurt, all this stuff. I mean, if Melo goes to the Lakers, it changes everything. One, do the Lakers win in 2011? Because they won in 2010. Do they add Melo and go back-to-back? No, that would have been a three-peat at that point, right? Depending on the time, because he just said it was 2011. So do the Lakers three-peat? Because they won in what, 2009, 2010, and then if Melo would have went to the Lakers in 2011, do you get the three-peat at that point? And maybe Dallas doesn't win? Because that was if I'm my time's right, that's the year Dallas wins. So the Lakers, maybe they end up beating Dallas? Lakers don't implode and Andrew Bynum tries to take out JJ Barea. And the Lakers, maybe with Melo, maybe they end up winning the Western Conference. and they end up playing Miami in the finals? And does Kobe and Melo help lead this team to a championship and they three-peat? And then what happens from there? Now, it's the Lakers, so I do think the Lakers still would have tried to trade for Dwight Howard, right? Because if you remember, Dwight Howard, he wasn't traded for, Bynum was part of the deal, but Bynum went to Philly, right? And then, you had Vu and Aaron Afalo and those guys. I think it was like Al Harrington. Those guys all went to the Orlando Magic. And then Dwight ultimately went to the Lakers. So do the Lakers end up trading, instead of like Bynum, do they end up trading Pau Gasol, and maybe they end up trading Meta, and they just kind of have a big three of Kobe, Dwight, and Carmelo Anthony? And then do the Lakers still go trade for Steve Nash? Right? Because, you'd imagine that you'd want and need a point guard to kind of put everything together. Do they still go do the Nash and Dwight trade? Is the question. Because you got to remember that they went and got Nash and Dwight Howard, and they still were able to keep Pau Gasol and Metta World Peace. So, do they end up trading those guys and still get Steve Nash and Dwight Howard and pair those two guys up with Melo and Kobe? And now you have Nash, Kobe, Melo, Dwight, and then whatever the 4 spot is, or you move Melo to the 4. I'm curious. I'm curious of how the Lakers would have approached that. Could the Lakers still have gotten a Dwight Howard deal done? Because that deal wasn't just a 1-for-1. It was like, a 4-team trade, I believe, right? It was Orlando, the Lakers, the Sixers, and then I believe there was a fourth team involved. I'm trying to think of who that 4th team was. But my point is that, like, they still very likely could have gotten a deal done for Carmelo Anthony, or for Dwight Howard. Even if they got Carmelo Anthony, do they still go for Steve Nash, though, is the real question. Or if they don't get Dwight, do they still go, and do they just get Steve Nash and pair him with Kobe and Melo? And, man, imagine, and like, I know Nash gets hurt in the post, or the preseason, but does he, if this happens? And what position are the Lakers in? Because one, do the Lakers end up three-peating, like I mentioned? If they do three-peat, look, if the Lakers can get Dwight Howard, they go get Dwight Howard, just because it's the Lakers, right? The Lakers aren't going to say no to Dwight Howard if they can go get Dwight Howard. And especially if the Lakers three-peated, there's no way I see them going, oh no, like, we're just not going to go get the best center in the league at the time. And if it's Dwight, Melo, and Kobe, does Dwight ever leave? Seriously, does Dwight Howard ever leave? Because I know him and Kobe clashed, but one, if you had Melo, Kobe, right? Let's say you did the Steve Nash deal. Dwight Howard was dealing with back surgery and back issues. He rushed back sooner than he had to because he didn't want the Lakers to struggle and all that stuff. So Dwight Howard might have been able to sit back, relax, and get right and healthy. And he wouldn't have had to force himself back. He wouldn't have had to rush back, because you would have had Kobe and Melo to kind of handle the workload until Dwight was able to get healthy. Then Dwight comes back healthy. If Dwight is his old self, does him and Kobe clash as much? It's a lot of like hypotheticals. It's a lot of what ifs, but these things are fun. I always enjoy these types of things. And there's so many like what ifs when you talk about the Lakers. From like guys like Charles Barkley, it's just, it's awesome to see, right? Melo ultimately ended up playing for the Lakers, but that wasn't Denver Nuggets Melo. And imagine like all the duels between him and Kobe just going back and forth in the postseason and the conference finals, and then to see those two team up, see those two take on the challenge together, like that would have just been awesome. Like two of my favorite players growing up, two icons, two legends, like I mentioned, two of the greatest scorers to ever play the game. Like teaming them up together, like what would that have looked like? Because if me personally, I think either A, it would have been absolute brilliance and the Lakers would have been terrifying, or it would have been an absolute disaster because it just wouldn't have worked. Like I either think A, Kobe and Melo figure it out and they both kind of sacrifice for the greater good, or they clash too much. Both of them want to be the guy, and it ends up becoming a disaster, or it's just like clunky. It's just not a good fit. Like, right? Like think of like good example would be like Russell Westbrook with LeBron and AD. It just wasn't a fit, right? Like all excellent talent. The idea of Russ on the Lakers with LeBron and Anthony Davis, the idea, it's like, okay, like that would be exciting. That could make sense. Give you somebody that could just kind of play downhill, a guy that allows LeBron to play off ball. LeBron makes the sacrifice, right? The idea, I mean, I don't think anyone thought it would work, but I understood the idea of Russell Westbrook. The idea of Melo sounds like it would be terrifying. You put Melo and Kobe on the court together, good luck. But does it play out that way is the question, right? Does it fit? Does it make sense? Or is it this kind of awkward, like, a lot of ISO heavy basketball, ball's not really moving, it's just kind of you go, I go, you go, I go, and it's just clunky. It's an interesting thought. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How did you feel about this news? Did you know about this news? Is this new to you? What would you have thought of Melo? Because you're talking like prime Melo. Talking about 25 point a game Melo playing alongside Kobe. And this is pre-Achilles. This is Kobe coming off of back-to-back championships. This isn't Kobe tears his Achilles and is trying to rehab. No, this is Kobe just won 2 NBA championships. Kobe. So, what does that look like? But again, love to hear your thoughts and opinions, however you feel, down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.